Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for another review. Today we are talking about The Order, a film that I honestly had no intention to check out until I heard about the great word of mouth. It's an R-rated crime drama slash thriller directed by Justin Kurzel. I don't think I've ever actually seen any of this director's movies before, but he did a version of Macbeth as well as the Assassin's Creed film, which is probably on the lower end of his filmography, but those are the only two that I know of. It's set in the early 80s. Jude Law stars as FBI agent Terry Husk, who finds himself chasing a white supremacist terror cell that has been linked to a number of recent bank robberies. The story of this film is heavily based on real-life events, and so some of the characters are not fictionalized and did actually exist as real people, most notably the ringleader of this terror group, played by Nicholas Hoult, and that is Bob Matthews. A majority of the other characters, including our protagonist, Agent Husk, to the best of my knowledge, are fictional. Among the supporting cast, we have Journey Smollett as another one of the FBI agents working with Husk, as well as Ty Sheridan as a local police officer. And he's kind of the one that sets the plot in motion because he's one of the few who's convinced that these bank robberies that are occurring are linked to this white supremacist group. My knowledge of these real-life events before seeing the film were pretty limited. I did want to do like a quick 10-minute internet search just to gather some basic details. So, I learned how this organization that went on to be known as The Order came to be, a little bit about Bob Matthews and how his story ends. I wouldn't call myself an expert by any means, but I have the basics down. And after watching the movie, you can definitely tell that parts of the narrative are very Hollywoodized, over-dramatized for the sake of entertaining the audience, which is fine. I certainly don't mind them including a few extra chase sequences or shootouts that maybe didn't happen in real life, but that helps, elevate the tension and keeps the pacing from slumping. However, I will say something does happen in the third act that left me thinking, okay, not only is this completely fabricated, but it's also unrealistic in every sense. I guess that's the issue you run into when you write fictional lead characters into what is otherwise a very grounded, true-to-real-life crime drama. And the plot of this film is overall largely derivative and bare bones. Most of it is Husk and his coworkers rushing to gather evidence that the Order is in fact responsible for these robberies so that they can make a move before the group has obtained enough money to build their army that they ultimately plan to overthrow the US government with, a detail that I did not know beforehand. This is probably very true of their real-life counterparts as well, but I kept thinking while watching the movie, did they really think they were going to get away with this, drawing this much attention from the feds as they keep robbing these banks? I know that they need to pool resources in order to acquire weapons and to build this army, but come on, the idea that they would actually get away with it seems so far-fetched. And that is by no means a criticism of the film itself, it's just a thought that popped into my head. At one point there's a conversation between Matthews and another character, a preacher I believe, who basically tells him we need to be patient and work our way into Congress where we can make changes without resistance, which is kind of terrifying to think about. Point being, the bad guys in this movie are kind of dumb. Jude Law and Nicholas Hoult are both great in this film. I think they elevate it a significant degree above what could have been a very average conventional thriller. And, it's interesting because one of them is playing a fictionally created character and one is playing a real-life person. So there's a little difference in between how you would approach characters like that, I think. The way Agent Husk acts in this movie, though, it's almost like Jude Law had access to details about his character that are never revealed to the audience. There's a backstory there that we never get to dive into. He has some health issues that are never fully disclosed. He makes it clear that because of some things that happened in his past, he's currently trying to wind down his career a bit before getting sucked into this massive situation. Point being, we learn a lot about our antagonist, Bob Matthews, and it was interesting to kind of get a glimpse into the mind of a cult leader like that, who obviously has some very evil, radical ideas, and trying to understand how he was able to assemble an entire group of individuals that have this same way of thinking. But I wish we got the same attention for our protagonist because although Jude Law is great, it did sometimes feel like he was just your average FBI agent stand-in because that's who they needed the main character of the film to be. And if you strip away the great acting, the solid cinematography, color grading, and direction, this does kind of have a very paint-by-numbers script that sticks to the tried-and-true formula of organized crime, cops and robbers type films. The police will get a lead on the bad guys. Maybe there's a little chase or a shootout. The bad guys get away somehow by some ridiculous means. and then you rinse and repeat until the final act when they finally get some leverage over them. But it is definitely elevated by the strong performances, production values, and the social relevance. At the very least, it intrigued me enough to want to go back on the internet and research more about the real life events. So I think this is worth like a matinee watch in the theater, or at the very least check it out on streaming when it comes out there. I'm gonna give The Order 3 stars. As always, if you managed to catch the film, I would love to hear what you think of it. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe while you're at it if you want more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.